Happy Wisdom Wednesday, everybody. So this week's book of the week is by Ryan Holiday, the author of a lot of great books on Stoicism and history, such as The Obstacle is the Way, The Daily Stoic, and the book that I want to review this week is called Ego is the Enemy. So history books are really filled with a lot of stories about great visionary geniuses, right? But there's also a lot of stories about people who made sure to overcome their egos and not allow their egos to get in their way. And unfortunately, history has a lot of examples of people who had huge egos that really caused them to fail and fail very badly. So Ego is the Enemy really compiles a lot of these stories and helps put a framework in terms of how you can control your ego. Now, why is it important for us to control our ego? The reason why is that our ego oftentimes leads us astray, and it impedes our ability to objectively look at things. You know, one thing that it causes is what's called a superiority bias, which pretty much means that for whatever reason you think you're better than other people. This happens when you have a higher position, when you graduate from a really top-notch school, or you just happen to be very successful and being, kind of having a win streak. That's when ego starts to really inflate itself. And I want to walk you through 3 ways that you can control your ego. So number 1, be humble in your aspirations. It's important to do so. No, definitely shoot for the moon, but you have to be humble in the way that you go about achieving those kind of things. Number 2, gracious in success. This is an important one because the moment that we are successful in anything, we all of a sudden think that we're special. And in fact, a lot of times our success also comes with timing and luck. So whenever you're successful, that's the exact time to take a few steps back and be very, very critical about why you're successful, and so that way you don't cloud your judgment. And lastly, resilient in failure. So why would we want to be resilient in failure, and how does that relate to the ego? The way that relates to the ego is that the ego is the first thing to pump you up when you're successful, but the moment you fail, it's the first thing to turn around on you and tell you that, you know what, you were never good enough, you didn't work hard enough, and then we beat ourselves up for it. And a lot of times, I think, especially in our culture here in the West, we feel like this is the best way to get really the best out of ourselves, which is to beat ourselves down. But let me ask you this, would you in fact ever work for somebody like that? If you messed up and you start calling yourself an idiot, do you think that idiot will be able to go and do better? The answer is no. And just to kind of relate this to another book, Ryan Holiday's mentor, believe it or not, who he apprenticed under, was Robert Greene, the guy who wrote The 48 Laws of Power, among many other books, and his most recent book, The Laws of Human Nature, which I'm starting to go through right now. It's a fantastic book. But even in this book, the first thing that Robert Greene tackles is how to address these cognitive biases that we have that make us think that we're better than we really are. As I mentioned before, the superiority bias is a very dangerous one. So when you're able to use your rational brain and logically identify, I have a superiority bias because I graduated from Harvard, and I have a confirmation bias because I keep looking for things that confirm whatever I believe. Once you start recognizing those things, you can protect yourself from making bad decisions, and more importantly, keep your ego in check. So that's the book of the week. Definitely go and check it out. I highly recommend this book for new professionals. So if you're a vice president or a CEO and you have a young new sales force or a young new marketer, a lot of young people, they have a lot of vigor. They're very aspirational and really aggressive. And most times they have too much ego. Buy this book for them and help them get their ego in check early on. Trust me, you'll thank me for it later. So that's the book of the week. Happy Wisdom Wednesday. And as always, I'll see you next week.